I guess I'll need to turn it over to Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Well, welcome. I'd like to welcome you, Hurrah for the Moon Sisters. And the Confederate Thespians have come up from Houston to perform this wonderful play written by Joan, Hough. And I want to say, first of all, that this is an amazing play. It is footnoted. If you were to look at this play, you would see it footnoted with historical references throughout. It is very factual. It is a work of historical art and scholarship. So I think you'd really enjoy it. So here we go. I'm the introducer. There once were two Moon Sisters who were considered to have been the most successful of all Confederate lady spies. Their remarkable accomplishments not only saved countless Southern lives, but caused a great deal of work for New England historians needing to erase from American memories all truthful accounts concerning amazing Confederates. The U.S. government had to be sure nothing engenders pride in Southern students or national admiration for Southerners. There is no doubt the Moon Sisters pulled the wool over the eyes of the deviously clever, horrifically cruel Edwin Stanton and honest Abe Lincoln. But don't expect to read any of this in the U.S. government-approved textbooks. Your tax money is provided to American students. And don't hold your breath until the motion picture industry shares with the public a single truth about our South's wondrous heroes and heroines. Don't expect television to present any true tales of the South's patriots who lived lives of danger because of their love for the original U.S. Constitution and a nation with a flag bearing a Christian cross.
Amen.
Some members of the Texas Society of Confederate Thespians are here with us now to tell us a little bit about themselves and a lot about the Moon Sisters.
Hello, 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 you magnificent Southern men.
And you gorgeous and gracious ladies.
Lucky to be with such men.
Such
magnificent Southern men. I'm Hough.
I'm Soma.
And I'm Slay.
We, the members of the Texas Confederate Thespians, are pleased to present for your edification
And entertainment.
We hope
a collection of historical truths culminating in a somewhat spicy spy tale.
In a production written especially for the Dallas, Texas Confederate Sons, Belo Camp 49.
Hooray for the Moon Sisters! Our story comes to you in the theatrical genre known as Reader's Theater. This is a type of literary performance considered rather avant-garde.
And foreign to most audiences, but a perfect genre for busy women.
you think radio while we're with you.
We Confederate Thespians are a collection of Southern ladies sponsored tonight by the Woodlands Order of the Confederate Rose.
Normally, because we are a group of females, all the male roles in our productions are played by us. But on this rare occasion, we, using our Southern female wiles, entice a real man to become one of the male characters in our play. He is our surprise guest actor. We'll introduce him to you later. His participation is a groundbreaking event for us.
We confess that to overcome his reluctance to be our one and only real man, we had to resort to some insider influence.
True, we sicked a pillow talk thespian to work on him, his wonderful, fantabulous thespian wife.
Now, a bit about us. We, the Texas Confederate Thespians, are unreconstructed Southerners. We are proud of what we are, what we do, and what we say.
People who believe what the victors have published in the history books, in the movies, and on TV, and what the politicians say will find much of what we say
Highly objectionable.
Politically incorrect.
Political correctness is something that the Marxists dreamed up in the early 1800s. It is a Marxist creation to control not just our speech and our writings, but our thoughts themselves. Mao Zedong was a big practitioner of political correctness.
Marxists and their twins, the critical theorists who took over our education, are the enemies of truth. We who speak truth not only denounce evil, we fight the enemies of truth. They are enemies of America, and they are our personal enemies.
We say to all you good folks, now is the time for all good men
And women.
to come to the aid of our country. Now is the time to fight the enemies of truth.
What can we tell that somebody who refuses to join us because he claims he has no reason to fight, that he has no enemies?
We quote Charles Mackay, you have no enemies, you say? Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure must have made enemies, must have made foes. If you have none, small is the work that you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip. You've been a coward in the fight.
We are not cowards. We attack our enemies in plays, but we are not playing.
We mean business.
Because we subscribe to the beliefs of that great thinker, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. We share our historical truths with others in a fashion a bit different from that customary, not as formal oratory, but as storytelling done in plays.
Solzhenitsyn advises us that storytelling is absolutely the best way to inform others, to get them to listen. That even if they don't quite comprehend all the meanings in the story, at the unconscious level, truth in a story reaches them.
He says ridicule destroys the enemies of truth. That is a weapon of great sharpness. So we use that too.
Solzhenitsyn tells us that we must speak out against evil. That in keeping silent about evil and burying it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it, and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future.
When we neither punish nor reproach evildoers, we are thereby ripping the foundations of justice from beneath new generations. He tells us that unless people like us, like you, speak out, our young people will believe that foul deeds are never punished on earth, that they always bring prosperity.
And this world will not be a place worth living in. So in our stories told in plays, we not only expose evil, we show that evil can be defeated.
And our moon sisters do just that.
It is easy to tell that we lack proper scholarly objectivity. We speak our truths quite passionately. But what we say, how we say it, will not begin to tell it like it was. It would take thousands of volumes of books to list the atrocities committed against our people, supposedly to save the Union.
So it is with passion we are compelled to speak, because we can never forget that our families went through the first Holocaust, the first genocide in the modern world.
People ask us, why can't you get over all of that?
They say, that's all in the past. Get alive.
We say, have the Jews gotten over what was done to them? How can you say we must?
Only a minute amount can ever be told of the suffering of Southern women, of the agonies of torture our boys suffered in Yankee prisons, and what our people endured during the war and Reconstruction. But we must not let Americans remain ignorant of the truth. Our South was scourged by Northerners trying to exterminate us. Unspeakable horrors were committed by lying, sometimes under oath, Yankees, those in Congress, those in the pay of the U.S. government, and those who invaded our homes, our kitchens, our gardens, and our bedrooms.
And by 200,000 Germans and European foreigners, the Republicans brought here from Europe as hired guns to take the fighting place of those New England boys whose dads kept them safe and snug at home. 100,000 or so Northerners evaded the draft, causing 1/4 of the Union Army to be recruited from abroad.
This was in a time when there were 22 million white folks living in the North and only 6 million whites in our South.
Yet the Yankees had to import hired guns to invade our South.
Talking about invasion, we can easily say that S theory was one of the causes of the North's invasion of our South, and the H theory another.
The H theory is that Yankees' hate for Southerners caused the war. The S theory declares that the war was fought because of Southerners' sin, Southerners' wickedness.
It is called the devil theory.
A dozen years before the war, Northerners were heavily inundated with horrible communist-originated propaganda, portraying Southerners as brooding, obnoxious degenerates, harboring in their souls a barbaric hatred for slaves and for right-thinking Northerners. The North's preachers lapped up that stuff, lapped it right up, and began bellowing from their pulpits that Southerners were all the devil's disciples, sinners without hope of forgiveness or salvation, deserving only death, and that every Confederate man, woman, and child should be exterminated.
That Southerners should join the devil in hell, and it was the Yankees' duty to send them there. Southern men, women, and kids. Northern preachers commanded it.
And without a word in the Holy Bible to justify that belief and the preacher's commands.
Most of the religious New Englanders were Unitarians, or Unitarian influenced, including the Yankee abolitionist preachers. They did not believe in the Trinity or the divinity of Jesus Christ. They lived in the religious burned over area in New England, believed in the occult, in seances. Some of them, like Harriet Beecher Stowe and her preacher husband, had visions. They scorned the South's believers in the Holy Bible for being Bible thumpers.
But let's get on with our spy tale. We must tell about the 3 events that kick our moon girls into action.
The 3 events all occurred on the same day, March the 2nd, 1861.
This was 2 days before Lincoln officially claims the Oval Office, but he masterminds all events. Only the mentally benumbed can assume something otherwise.
Time does not permit us to develop fully the story of these events, but due to their significance in the lives of our moon girls, we must give them some attention. They were
The moral tariff
The Fort Sumter invasion.
and the Carwin Amendment.
on March 2nd, 1861, at the urging of the Republican Party, with the full approval of Lincoln not yet in office, Congress passes a moral tariff which was to increase to 47% in 3 years. This was certainly no surprise to Southerners.
It was an increase of more than 250% on some items. Lincoln supported it fully before and after his election.
This tariff was designed to milk dry the milk cow South. It will doom the South's little farm families to the level of abject poverty so the North can have more canals.
And build a railroad to the west on the uneconomical, more difficult to build northern route instead of either of the other 2 routes.
The ones Jeff Davis, when Secretary of War, had found more efficient, safest, cheapest to build and fastest to travel.
And most especially not the southern one, because it was on a direct, mostly flat land.
And who could make any big bucks on that?
With the addition of the moral tariff, vast millions paid by Southerners will go right into the pockets of Northern businessmen.
Building more canals certainly doesn't aid Southerners.
Republicans voted for this horror in fear of what South Carolina just might do, that South Carolina Democrats' low-tariff ports will steal all the foreign trade for from the New England states.
To the North shock, the passing of the tariff results in a terrifically adverse effect felt by the North's business community.
The very folks the tariff is supposed to help, it hurts.
The North's financial situation becomes so serious that folks start saying that only a war can save the North.
The South already pays 85% of the cost of the U.S. government and gets nothing in return.
Lincoln's dedication to the moral tariff is proved in his first inaugural speech when he declares slavery is not a problem, but money is, and proves this truth by threatening to invade any state refusing to pay the tariff.
He certainly didn't say, "I'll invade if you don't let loose your slaves." Who says lust for money isn't the root of all evil?
The second happening is Carolina being forced to fire the first shot on its own property, Fort Sumter. This story involves intrigue, secret orders, political deception, and conspiracy, all hidden afterwards by Yankee propaganda. South Carolina must fire to avoid being attacked by the U.S. on two sides.
Lincoln has said over and over he will not send any troops in to reinforce Sumter. His envoy assures the governor of this. Yet Lincoln sends in a fleet loaded with hundreds of hidden soldiers and manipulates the South to fire on its own Fort Sumter.
As usual, he lies. He tells the people his Sumter troops are starving and he must take them food.
He knows that South Carolina's governor is feeding those troops and has been assured that no troops will be sent.
But Lincoln must protect his tariff by holding on to Sumter.
Louisiana's General Beauregard keeps Lincoln's fleet from landing.
But the fleet's presence forced Beauregard's artillery to fire on the fort, fire shots that strangely failed to hit a single Yankee.
And here I thought Southern boys could shoot better than that.
Obviously, the moral tariff is the real reason for the war against Southern liberty.
The war of Northern aggression.
The war to prevent Southern independence, the war against Southern liberty, the uncivil war.
Without it, Yankees would have had to find another reason to steal Southern property. Marxists hate folks who own land, and every white Southerner owned land. Marxists insist on redistributing the wealth by removing it from the haves and giving it to the have-nots. That is, they take it for themselves.
The North did not go to war to end slavery. The real proof that slavery was not the cause of the war is found in the still ready to be ratified Corwin Amendment, the first 13th Amendment. With Lincoln's hearty approval, both houses in Congress passed the Corwin and sent it to the states to be ratified.
The Corwin Amendment gives perpetual, irrevocable,
forever
slavery rights to the South and is written so those rights can never be terminated by the U.S. government.
No law can ever be a forever one. It lasts only until it is legally altered or erased. No matter. The Corwin Amendment is soon on its way into the U.S. Constitution. It is rapidly ratified by Ohio, Maryland, and Illinois, but the South will not ratify it.
because the war is not about slavery. Not for the South and not for the North.
The Corwin Amendment on this very day remains open for ratification.
In 1963, some Texan, to make a point, made a lighthearted try to get it amended by the Texas State Legislature.
The very existence of the Corwin Amendment is absolute proof that the so-called Civil War was not fought by the North to free slaves or by the South to keep them.
But slavery as a cause has been methodically sold to Americans.
It's the U.S. government's grand rationalization for all those war and Reconstruction crimes committed by it against the South.
Thanks to Edward Stanton and Marxist Charles Dana and Marxist Horace Greeley, Hate the South propaganda poured out of the Secretary of War office onto pulpits and into the mouths of Northern preachers. It transformed into glory the bloody, brutal horrors committed by Lincoln's soldiers.
When decent folks read those Yankee sermons, they are sickened by the words, bellowed out demanding death for Southerners because of their supposed Confederate heresy against the sacred, the divine, the U.S. government.
The U.S. government's slavery lie has morphed into a creature with the facade of a heavenly humanitarian endeavor. It has changed a war of aggression, perversion, and greed into a noble accomplishment of noble Northerners.
The war's victors have assured us it's wonderful that the United States entered the South and killed about 1 million Americans because it was the only way slaves could be freed.
What kind of chicken brain does it take to believe that lie?
The Yankees didn't even decide to introduce slavery into the picture until the middle of the war when they were losing. The most fundamental of reasons for the Yankee War was to keep blacks out of the North, but now idiots claim the war was to free slaves.
Well, have we got news for the idiots? Idiots? The North started the war over money and power, and now you're claiming they started it for humanitarian reasons? Sorry, but they don't get to start a war for one reason, and after they win, you decide they started it for another. Just because in the middle of the war, when they were losing for political reasons, they screamed the word emancipation.
New Jersey did not end slavery within itself until the war was
The
ended.
focus on slavery as the cause of the war is a fraud of biblical proportions. It prevents real understanding of American history.
The media and academia have been forcing the slavery lie on us only since 1960.
But hope is now on the scene. Some Americans, such as Craig Moss, Chuck Damastis, Jeffrey A. Davis, in online publications are truthfully connecting the dots from the past to the present.
Among the bravest of the dot connectors are writers daring to be politically incorrect and to tell the truth. Authors such as James Kennedy and Walter Kennedy,
Al Benson Jr., Michael Andrew Grissom, and Thomas DeLorenzo.
John Chandler Griffin, Clyde A. Wilson, V.P. Hughes, and Charles Damastis.
Walter Bryan Cisco, Mark Vogel, and Jim Dean.
Gene Kaiser,
Gene Kaiser Jr., Charles Ramsdale, and James King.
Frank Connor, H.W. Crocker III, J.A. Davis, and Steve Scroggins.
Jonathan White, Bill Valenti, Craig Moss, and Kevin Carroll.
To name a few.
And there are some wonderful organizations working hard to get the truth out to the people. One group containing the bravest, noblest Southerners of all is a collection of magnificent Southern men called the Confederate Sons.
A shining example among them is the Belo Confederate Sons Camp 49 in Dallas, Texas. The Belo men are noted for honoring the charge.
And there's a marvelous new bunch of very bright ladies who are very dedicated to truth and to free speech and to the Sons of the Confederacy. They are the Order of the Confederate Rose.
But still, some devout Confederates say and write that slavery was either the cause or one of the causes of the war. Why do they do this?
When a couple of states, knowing the U.S. government constitutionally is required to protect property, and knowing that when lying Republicans grabbed all the power, that protection had John Brown holes shot all through it. That truth became another reason for seceding.
Especially after mass murderer Brown was virtually declared a new Jesus by New England's preachers and by women like Glory Hallelujah, Battle Hymn of the Republic, Julia Ward Howe, and the Hate the South novelist Harriet Beecher Stowe. Republican abolitionists parading as humanitarians were anti-biblical, were infatuated with socialism, communism, feminism, and egalitarianism. Yet they claimed their Republican Party, the party of Christian witness, Yankee Henry David Thoreau, found Brown's death equal to the crucifixion of Christ. He called Brown the angel of light. Unitarian preacher Theodore Parker even preached that God will create a soul yet larger and nobler than Jesus to lead the way to a more perfect religion. Julia Howe seemed to believe John Brown was that creation.
Harriet Beecher Stowe is that novelist whose visions came to her in church and caused her to take stories from a Thomas Wells's book of newspaper articles, Slavery as It Is. She formed those stories into revolting propaganda entitled Uncle Tom's Cabin. Her work made Northerners believe all Southerners are
Simon Legree's drinking blood and burning turpentine and going down, down, down to the devil.
Her stuff was presented in plays all over the North.
She's the woman to whom Lincoln was said to say, when he met her, "Oh, you're the little lady that's caused the war."
So both the mass murderer Brown and novelist Beecher Stowe offered a reason for a couple of states to secede.
Right, but quite obviously, the reasons for seceding are not the same as the reasons for fighting a war.
Certainly, no Southerner wanted to or was even willing to go out and die to keep slaves.
No wonder folks today want to label Southerners with a capital S for sinners. They declare the wickedness of Southerners caused the war. They believe the U.S. rose up in righteousness and put down the evil rebellion. In the process, Lincoln emancipated the slaves and generously refrained from giving the severe punishments the Southern traitors deserved.
Southerners should be exterminated. Rebellion and treason are only expiable with death. Hemp and hell only. We heard this ridiculous claim even from preachers in New England's Protestant churches. They were influenced by the socialist Unitarians who were influenced by the 1848er Marxists.
Our own modern day concept of sin is being transferred back to the past by some of us. A few of us accept as sin what the invaders, without a single bit of Bible proof, defined as sin.
Some Southerners today are guilty of transposing back to the past their own present-day beliefs as to what is sin. They read the present into the past. In addition, they entertain a pervasive form of confusion, an emotional and intellectual form of inability that closes their eyes and ears to truth.
This causes them to adopt some of the beliefs of the Marxist indoctrination. Yankee preachers who declared rebellion and treason was expiable only with death, so wanted Southerners murdered at the end of the war.
They declared the South preachers and priests were filled with greater evil than that present in decadent slave-raping planters.
These bizarrely religious New Englanders insisted that once the war was all over, the South's pastors, whether Protestant or Catholic, should be hung by the neck until dead.
Yankees hated it that the South preachers believed in the Holy Bible, and the Bible does not declare slavery as a sin.
The North's men of God found the Bible thumpers' religion and the Ten Commandments entirely too Bible-based.
Marxists especially hated the South's religion and the Ten Commandments, which back then was emblazoned on every courtroom wall.
Just as the conviction can be countered that the uncivil war was begun by the United States government's desire to free slaves, so can be countered the belief that Confederates were sinners because they held slaves.
Would the Norsemen fight to free slaves? Did they fight to free the slaves?
Sherman and Grant both said no. New Yorkers said no. In the middle of the war, when the North was losing, England and France were on the verge of helping the South. That caused Lincoln to issue his Emancipation Proclamation.
And the Emancipation Proclamation caused hundreds of Yankee soldiers to flee the army and caused New Yorkers to refuse to go to war.
No wonder the Republicans had to import such a vast number of foreigners.
Wonder if they knew the rich New Englanders' sons did not fight. Sons of Edwin Stanton and Abe Lincoln did not fight. Lincoln took troops from the battlefield, sent them to New York, and had them kill 1,000 or more New Yorkers, all to save the Union.
When Lincoln first invaded the South, a remarkable U.S. congressman, one of the gutsiest Ohioans ever to live, a man by the name of Clement Vallandigham, declared the war was not to preserve the Union, but to stamp out liberty and install despotism.
Lincoln illegally and unconstitutionally kicked Vallandigham out of Congress and out of the nation for daring to tell truths.
Numerous thoughtful Americans are aware there exists absolute proof that every action Lincoln took was not made to save the Union, but made in desperation to save a bankrupt North whose streets were thronged with out-of-work men.
Some of the men were despicable warmongers, radical Marxist Republicans. Some were Constitution-loving, brave and honest Democrats called Copperheads.
Some of them lived in Ohio.
By their sides stood a Virginia family with two amazing daughters, two girls slated to become the most flamboyantly successful of all Confederate female spies. They will be legends. We'll tell you all about them. Our heroines are Bethel and Cynthia Charlotte, known as Lottie and Jenny. They are the Virginia-born daughters of Dr. Robert S. Moon and Cynthia Ann Sullivan. By today's standards, they are nothing less than two fabulous, totally scintillating, thoroughly amazing Confederate hotties.
Their Virginia daddy's passion for the South was undiluted when he moved his family north. His work with the Knights of the Golden Circle ignites in his offspring Southern devotion, which puts his sons in the Confederate Army and inspires his girls to achieve.
The level of oh my oh, from the tips of their pretty toes to the tops of their lovely heads of hair, his Southern belles will become inspiration to all Copperheads and Southerners. For his girls, aiding the South, will never be an oh no, but always a go, go, go.
Now, are you ready to meet the Moon Sisters? Are you?
Jenny, where are you, sister darling? I've got big news.
I'm right here, sister darling. What on earth is going to be in your bonnet?
Oh me, oh my, oh, things are really beginning to pop here in Ohio.
Oh me, oh my, oh no. You mean the war of northern aggression is about to reach Ohio?
I'm afraid so.
But Lottie, that means we'll be under the eyes of
Nothing but the enemy.
the enemy. Good Lord, save us.
Dirty dog Yankees. sanctimonious, puritanical, thinking they are so superior Yankees.
You can't get Daddy to return us to Virginia.
No, sorry, I can't. But Jenny, you are his baby darling. Why don't you try?
No use. I heard him talking about this months back. Much is involved. The Knights of the Golden Circle depend on him.
We've both grown up in the North, but thank goodness we've kept our promise to our parents. And we've never swallowed those Yankee lies, nor will we.
Not so long as turnip greens grow
And cornbread browns perfectly.
Somehow we'll fulfill our born duty to our South.
We cannot shirk. We're Southern born and Southern proud.
We're no newbie Germans come newly here. We're no radical Marxist Republicans. Our Southern great-grandfathers on both sides of the family fought against the Brits in that first war of secession.
Fought and won.
Exactly. Now it looks inevitable. Our South must secede a second time.
It will, mark my words, baby sis, this year of 1861 is 70-76 all over again.
Daddy's just back from D.C. and New York. He had a powwow with our Ohio's Mr. Vallandigham at the Capitol. The Republicans are trying to get a law passed to punish anyone daring utter a single negative word about anyone in government or any of the actions in the U.S. They will do away with free speech amendment because they want to skin Mr. Vallandigham alive. But they are going to have trouble doing so because he's one smart and determined Buckeye.
Daddy says the North is in a great stage of tumult, in a stage of bankruptcy. The North is facing economic annihilation. Mr. Vallandigham says things are so bad that Mr. Lincoln and the Republicans will put us into a war because of money. Businesses are failing by the thousands. Hundreds of thousands of Northerners are out of work.
I heard Daddy tell Mama that the stock market is crashing. Banks are being threatened with runs, and the North's clipper ship captains are all heading south because of the South's low tariffs. That without the South's cotton for the North, hell's really a-poppin'. It is economic annihilation.
Well, those greedy Republicans just had to have their stupid mayoral amendment. They should have known that the South could not live with that horror. They thought passing that would force the South to give them all they want. Now, for sure, there's no talk of ending slavery, just the opposite. The South can have forever slaves if they'll just pay the tariff.
Daddy says no slaves will be needed once the Industrial Revolution reaches its full steam. It will kill slavery. The South will secede because it's tired of being the North's milk cow.
The South will secede, will need to secede, all right, but the real reason is because our state's people value states' rights, value our God-given liberties.
The South will secede because our people value the U.S. Constitution.
The South will secede because our people know what's in the Constitution. We know what it means and why it's there. Southerners know the Yankees are determined to shut our mouths and steal every Southern penny.
Lottie, you've been studying U.S. government longer than I have. So help me learn what it is there is I need to know. Is it true that the Constitution guarantees us a republic? That is, a republican form of government?
Yes, a republic, not an oligarchy, not an empire, not a dictatorship, and most certainly not a democracy. The word democracy does not even appear in any of the founders' documents.
Is it in the Declaration of Independence or the Articles of Confederation or the U.S. Constitution?
No, and it's not in any of the original 13 states' own state constitutions. All were written before the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. Our Southern ancestors knew that democracies come and democracies go. They deteriorate into mobocracy and then into communism.
Socialism, communism, and then a dictatorship. I do know our Constitution guarantees the rights, the independence of each individual state, and the independence of we the people in each state.
Yes, indeedy, it does that. Southerners understand the word state back in 1776 only meant nation. Each state was created as a separate, independent nation. The people have control of the U.S. Senate because each state controls its own U.S. senators and holds them accountable.
Huh. Each state owns its 2 senators? Wonder how long that will last. So each state is a nation and sovereign?
It sure is. You know, Virginia is it's larger than most European nations, just Virginia. And Texas is larger than no telling how many. Who says a state can't be its own boss? Jenny, are you aware that all people gave the central government in the Constitution only limited, well-specified duties?
Hey, does that mean that any state is superior to the central government?
It sure does, honey. But the radical Republicans will never admit that. Confederates and Copperhead Democrats know it's true, and that's why the Yankees hate Southerners and Copperheads.
The United States is not supposed to be an all-powerful central government, is it? Idiots are saying it is, and that the central government existed before a single state, that the U.S. government gave birth to Virginia and all the states now in existence.
All honest, intelligent folks who know all American history know the states existed first. Then the state legislators made a compact that gave birth to the central government. The King of England acknowledged the independence of each state, and only the ignorant or the Marxists declare the Union created the states, and that secession is illegal and even treason.
Didn't one time the New England states try to secede?
1 or 2 more occasions. Some small town in New York even tried to secede.
How sad it is that the newcomers aren't required to learn truthful American history. They don't realize that the North is violating the Constitution, refusing the correct decisions of the Supreme Court, and is driving into secession the very states most instrumental in creating our republic, and successful secession from the British Kingdom.
How sad it is that those new Germans, not the old ones, mind you, the new ones, you know, those 1848 Marxists, stole Thomas Jefferson's word Republican. And Horace Greeley and that communist Alvin E. Bove used that stolen word as the name for their political party. Their party represents the meaning of that word about as much as a turkey has sense. The Republican Party is awful. It is the nation's first sectional party, a party just for the North, the very thing Thomas Jefferson warned about.
Those Republicans aren't loyal Americans. They are out to kill our government of constitutional law and create an empire, an all-powerful central government, like the one we fought in 1776. Say, maybe even global government, a new world order. Didn't Daddy say that's what they really want? They'll force us Southerners and Copperheads into either white slavery or secession?
Mr. Lincoln told us in his inaugural speech that the Yankees' only concern is that moral tariff. They want all money.
Then it's a big Republican lie that the Republican Party was formed just to free the slaves?
It was formed to change the republic, to break the chains of the Constitution, to create an empire called a democracy, and an oligarchy ruled by socialist Marxist Republicans, and to continue in the South the European Revolution of 1848.
Those radical leaders are pretending to be humanitarians. They talk of abolition to disguise their plan to take the South's wealth and keep Southern men out of government.
They know England is now in its second industrial revolution, and we are just about to go into one. Slave labor will be unneeded. The South will be building their own factories. That scares Lincoln's Wall Street to death.
The Republicans are pretending the only way slaves can be free is if constitutional-loving whites are murdered and all we own is given to good Republicans.
Marxists call that redistributing the wealth. It's nothing but Marxist proletarian versus bourgeoisie cow patties. They want to redistribute the wealth, all right, to themselves.
As for the colored folks, is it possible that the Republicans would rather see them dead than free?
That's it. Northerners don't care about Southern folks, colored folks. They detest them. Some of the slaves are just a hop, skip, and a jump from the jungles and will die if they're forced out on their own. They will all be miserable without training and development of self-discipline. They'll be programmed for tribal dependence rather than self-reliance until changes They'll need a very specific form of education.
Yankees do not know these people. They don't know how they think, so they cannot help them learn what is needed. They handle them as if the colored folks have lived in the white world for centuries. Besides that, the Yankees don't even like them. They can't imagine being friends with them. Mr. Lincoln sure says ugly things about them. His Northerners hate them. They're passing laws regularly to keep them out of the North. The Republicans don't know, don't care, that the South has already freed and trained thousands of colored folks who now are proud, independent, respected Southerners. Mama says South Carolina is full of them.
Some will fight for the South. Louisiana has beaucoup educated, smart, free colored people. They own their own businesses. Some are enormously wealthy, have plantations, and even lots of slaves.
Yet Greeley, Dana, and Lincoln want to send all of them to Liberia or to Panama or anywhere out of America. Lincoln gave $1,000 to do that.
Mark my word, Jenny, the cause of the war is Yankee greed and our tariff money. And our cotton. We're growing it and the whole world wants it.
Yankees also want the South's rich soil, fine ports, the forest, the climate, our money, and our silver spoons.
They want to redistribute all our stuff, just like Marx says in that Communist Manifesto that Daddy brought home.
And keep our brilliant Southern men from sharing their expertise and wisdom with Northern voters.
Those radical Marxist Republicans plan to change our government from a republic to a democracy. It'll be a global empire inspired by Illuminati communists like Marx and Engels.
I can tell. You've been reading Daddy's copies of the New York Tribune again.
Yes. Well, it's important to know the enemy's propaganda. We need to know all that Marxist mess Horace Greeley and Charles Dana put in the New York Tribune. Even their editorials sound like Marx. Although I think his 10 years with the Tribune are over.
He's left plenty of words behind, still being printed. You've told me before, Greeley and Charles Dana are birds of a feather with Karl Marx. So what kind of good Republicans are Dana and Greeley?
Well, should we call them progressives? It's too bad that New York rag isn't read all over the South, so sharp Southerners could figure out a way to counter all those communist lies.
Yes, we need some counter-publicity. We need our own truthful propaganda. Daddy says that Marxist slop is being heard even from the North's pulpits. Northern preachers are claiming that Southern planters, preachers, and priests are in league with the devil and must be hung when the war is over.
Maybe if the Democrats' press is ever allowed to run again, somebody will reverse the indoctrination Greeley's pouring out. We'll stop all that Unitarian lies that Southerners are all breaking God's laws, committing a moral sin by having slaves, that Southerners, like in Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel, are ignorant, immoral, cruel people, signing degrees, running around with whips in their hands, beating slaves, and even
creating the nation's mixed race offspring.
Oh, you're too young to know that Yankees say that.
How can I not know it if we read the Tribune? As if those noble New Englanders, those Connecticut Yankees, didn't own slaves until they discovered white indentured Irish folks were cheaper to maintain. Yankees had slaves for over 200 years, and now pretend it was never. They treat their factory workers worse than slaves.
Yankees pretend buying and selling slaves didn't make their fortunes. Even the family owning the building where the Liberty Bell is are slavers.
Who brought slaves here in the first place? Not us, not Southerners, that's for sure.
New Englanders and British. The U.S. flag flew over most of the slave ships. A British flag flew over many. The Americans and the Brits both brought slaves from the Muslims as well as from the tribal chiefs. That truth will out someday.
But for now, let's make some plans. How are we going to manage our lives here in the land of the North, where even Protestant preachers are turning Unitarian, spitting on the Holy Bible and throwing out the Trinity and the divinity of Christ? What can we, two ordinary Southern females, do? Poison Yankees?
Well, let's think about it. What is it that all Southern girls know how to do best?
flirt. And we're mighty good at listening,
And talking.
especially sweet talking.
It comes down to this. We may be forced to be experts at spying, at administering a caustic brand of sweet poison. It's our destiny. It's written in the stars.
It's written in our chromosomes. If worse comes to worse,
We'll be sneaky Confederate spies. We'll be sneaky spies.
while doing sweet humanitarian stuff for and
Injured
to.
northern men. And we can be, doctor's aides.
And with kind words and lots of smiles, brighten the lives of wounded Yankees.
And give special care to injured Southern boys treated here in Ohio.
It should prove easy to collect Yankee secrets and share them with the right folks.
Yankee men say they're fascinated by the voices of Southern ladies.
They say our voices have the melody of the South.
They love it that we're such good listeners.
Yep, good flirts and fantastic spies must be good talkers
Good
and...
listeners. Hurry now, let's update our ruffles and our ribbons and laces.
And with our little embroidered hankies to drop, let's gather together our special weapons, our armature of war.
And our ladies, in the course of human events, know that is set in motion by the Republican Party. The Moon Sisters are now already several years into the 5 years of war. They're busy message and medicine transporting, cooling fevered brows, and caring for wounded soldiers. Some are Southern, but most are Northern ones. As the war of Northern aggression rolls on, the sisters collect Yankee hearts in bow after bow. Hearkening to Yankee whispers on starlit nights, they pass on Yankee secrets to Southern generals in broad daylight. They glow, they gleam, they fulfill Confederacy-loaded dreams. In such a manner, legends of them are coded in pure, unadulterated Scarlet O'Hara glamour.
Carl, dear, you are amazing. Here you are, you wonderful, sweet Yankee man, already walking in the garden. You're regaining your strength quicker than just about anybody I've ever seen. You are so strong, so brave, so very handsome. I just know this war will be over soon if all the Yankee soldiers are as wonderful as you are.
And you precious girl, I know you can appreciate us mighty men of the North. You're my sweetie, and I don't ever want to leave you. But my general is taking us far away in 6 weeks, and I'm going with him.
Oh, Carl, you're such a cutie pie. Don't you dare leave me without many goodbye kisses. Sweetheart, when you leave me, you'll grieve me. If you love me even a little bit, just whisper in my little ear where you're gonna be and all you're gonna do, so I'll know and I can dream of you there, doing what you do, and I'll pray you'll come home safely.
Bring me that cute little ear right over here, sweetie pie, and bring that sweet pair of lips right along with it.
Oh, really?
Howdy, Carl. I see you got yourself a little southern sweet patootie.
Howdy to you, Frederick. Yep, those little southern belle rings for me. Ain't she a cutie? I see you also are a man of discriminating taste. That's a little darling you've got there.
Ain't you though? I'm planning on coming back here to get her after this cruel war is over. Freddie, we're gonna live down in a little house down by Paul's Creek and raise potatoes and corn and wheat.
And lots of little Fredericks.
And sweet dear little Lotties. And Carl, when you guys, you and her sister come to visit, there'll be some fine walking horses, for the girls to ride. Both of our girls are excellent riders. Did you know that? And you ain't seen nothing until you've seen them do target shooting. And it's hard to believe, as female as they are, how superior they are in stuff nobody would ever imagine. They may have been born in the South, but they're Yankee to the bone.
That's right.
Come on, fellas. It's high noon.
It's dinner time. It's time for us to feed you guys some fine food with some good old Southern flavor. Maybe some good old cornbread.
We love that Southern flavor, that's for sure. But please, no cornbread, no turnip greens, no black-eyed peas, no vegetables, only red meat and lots of taters.
Ah, these Southern girls, how they hide their sharp minds as they make masterful uses of their figures and faces, ruffles and laces, sweet voices and smiles. They tantalize with teasing eyes and veiled suggestions of creations of future situations involving intimate relations and romantic thrills. Without question, they are superior equestrians. They are both honed, deadly, copperhead weapons and skirts, and as masterful at gun handling as they are flirts. Lottie, the elder, hurls ever as many Cupid darts, breaks ever as many Yankee hearts, as does her little sister Jenny. It is even said Lottie does not falter at leaving a future Yankee general at the altar. She weds instead James Clark of the Knights of the Golden Circle, and there's a big increase in her smuggling of medicine and messages and the development of even greater espionage expertise. Disguised as an Irish washerwoman, hurrying through Kentucky to a sick hubby, Lottie gains rides with Union soldiers by shedding a few moon tears on ready here and there Yankee shoulders.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're leaving now, huh? Farewell, ye great, handsome man. Thanks again for all you've done for me, for all you've shared with me, all those stories of places you've been and where you're gone. Bye-bye. Wow. Whoopee! I remember your every word. My generals are going to be happy. Yes, sirree.
And then, in another of those moon actions, now mistakenly labeled a myth, Lottie conveys an urgent Confederate message, an important communique from General Sterling Price to General Edmund Kirby Smith. Later, returning home on the train with handsome Union General Leslie Combs, Lottie acquires him as a most helpful companion. There's just something amazing about Southern ladies. With a good general's help, Lottie reaches Canada, where the Knights of the Golden Circle turn her right around, and Lottie soon is Southern bound, this time carrying messages to President Davis. And later, in another big adventure disguised as an ill Brit, Lottie seeks treatment at Warm Springs. Lottie zigs, she zags, she zooms through Union lines. She's begging rides until she meets a most important U.S. official. Why, goodness gracious, if it isn't Lincoln's Edwin Stanton, the mighty Secretary of War himself.
Edwin Stanton, the great Edwin Stanton. That's me. I mean, that is I. I'm the Secretary of War. I am. What Lincoln says about me, I don't give a ham. What a wonderful Secretary of War I am. Hell with bells. It is I, Edward Stanton, who runs this nation. Lincoln scarcely breathes without me order him in now, out now. How I loathe the fact that I must, for the public, pretend I like that piece of stick. Truth is, I absolutely despise Lincoln. He's the worst thing that has ever happened to the Republican Party, to the nation. Why did the radical Republicans run Fremont for office again, instead of Lincoln, the stupid socialist jokester? Just because Marx likes him, the Republicans like him. Oh, that Lincoln, what a stinkum, what a mess of hopeless saving he is. I detest that uncouth buffoon more than I hate someone in charge of the Southern prisoners for Yankees. I hate Lincoln more than I hate ridiculous, drunk Democrat Vice President Andrew Johnson. I hate Lincoln more than I hate John Singleton Mosby, and I hate him. How dare Mosby frighten me, make a fool of me? Folks in D.C. laugh at me. I must have that pretty boy killed. I will see him dead, and that is no lie. He must die. Mine is the power. I'm so powerful, so wonderful. I love me. I'm so powerful, someday I'm going to get that Captain Henry Wirtz hung for murder never committed on Yankee soldiers, nobody ever saw and nobody names. I'll do that just because I want to, and just before I can. I'll never let Lincoln have his way with Reconstruction. I'll fix that. I'll fix him. I'll never let anybody agree to exchange prisoners with that rat-think Davis. That Davis who thinks he's so aristocrat. Jeff Davis, long may you rot in hell, and long may you suffer once I get my hands on you. Congress said torture is legal. I made that so. I think that Jeff Davis is an excuse of a human being. Once he had my job as Secretary of War and a U.S. Senator. Can't wait to get him. Can't wait to get hold of him. That fool thinks his stuff don't stink. Wait till he gets what Stanton dishes out. Once my guys haul his carcass in, he'll learn what torture is. I'll never let that foul, snooty think they're so educated. Confederate men live one more day of good life. There'll be no more mint juleps on the veranda and no more gumbo in the Louisiana pot. I'll never own another piece of property, never vote again, never hold office again, never have money again. Not when I'm finished with this war for republic democracy. I'll show those filthy Southerners how the cow ate the cabbage. A win over them is a sure thing. Charles Daniels showed me how to get the North preachers all riled up in hating the South. They'll convince the church folks, men and women of the South, is full of sinners that require killing. I'll hire a bunch of helpers, Dana will do the writing, and I'll crank out all that old commie brainwash that wins the war for us. Dana made sure Grant's army's loaded with reliable Marxist generals who follow my every command. It's wonderful, it's marvelous, this being Secretary of War. Why, I'm more powerful than that string bean Abe will ever have. He jumps when I say jump, squats when I say squat. He's a baboon, an idiot, and a coward and a fool. I'm in like glue in the minds of the U.S. senators. Didn't they give me all the torture rights I wanted to use on the Confederate prisoners and our Union prisoners? Of course they did. I'm so powerful that one of these days I'm going to bamboozle me a gang of Confederates to do a dirty little job for us Marxist Republicans. Yes, sirree. I'm a fan of Karl Marx, and I think when I'm president, he'll like me better than he has ever liked that crude old vulgar Abe. I'll find some Southerners too dumb to know the real reason they're doing what I get them to do. Lincoln thinks he can outsmart me. Wait till he'll see what I can do. I intend to wind up either as the next Republican president or #1 Supreme Court justice. Now I'll contemplate, and constipate.
Stanton becomes the laughingstock of Washington, D.C. when he responds to a great hoax played on him by a staff member and becomes so terrified of Colonel John Singleton Mosby that he tears up a main Washington, D.C. bridge. barricades himself in his office after calling up a full company of troops to guard his door. He does all of this because he is convinced that John Singleton Mosby is coming to Washington, D.C. to get Stanton. Stanton is a major exponent of the total war policy. He is the creator of Jefferson and the dress lie, and the more prisoners exchange rule and Congresses, all Confederate prisoners shall be tortured law, and the no Yankees can testify for Wirt's rule. He also shuts the mouths of all lawyers attempting to defend Wirtz and Mrs. Surratt. In the future, Stanton will go on record as the one responsible for the first U.S. hanging of a woman. He'll keep a triple thick bag over innocent Mary Surratt's head with only one small hole in the bag, keeping her incommunicado until he hangs her. Even the general in charge of the prison declares Mrs. Surratt innocent, but Stanton won't let him tell President Johnson. Stanton gives Mary an illegal military kangaroo court trial, and eventually Stanton sends Charles Dana to shackle, hold incommunicado, and give 2 years of torture to the old gentleman, Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis, on orders of Stanton, is imprisoned without trial, sans corpus delicti and sans habeas corpus.
Oh, Mr. Edward Stanton, you're amazing man. I'm leaving now. I must say goodbye. And thank you so much. You are the kindest man ever. Helping the British citizen me. I cannot thank you enough, you dear man, for all you've done.
Lottie, it has been my very great pleasure to meet such a lovely British lady. I've been dealing with some nasty southern witches in D.C., so you are the sweet delight. In fact, my dear, you are a darling. And because you are, I've got good news for you. I, your friend Edward Stanton, sort of worked on U.S. President Lincoln. I used my influence, shall we say. What I say, do, he does. So he said he will come to the aid of a sweet, sweet British lady on her way to Warm Springs.
Oh, you wonderful, wonderful man. Let me kiss you for being so wonderful.
Do it, do it, do it, do it. Lottie, dear, I'll never wash that cheek again. I'll keep that smack forever. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Mr. Lincoln says he'll love having you ride to Warm Springs with him in his own carriage. Of course, you'll have to help him inspect the troops. How about that? There'll be plenty of room in the carriage for you. You can rest, you can sleep as much as you need to. But I'm afraid to say, dear lady, you have to force yourself to put up with hearing some of Abe's revolting, crude, poorly told, very vulgar jokes, and that will be a horrific ordeal for a lady like you. But you'll have the ride because I love England, and I'm so glad you aren't helping the South.
Goodness me, we'd never do that. Thanks again, dear Mr. Stanton, and farewell, you dear, you darling, you handsome man.
Farewell, dear lady.
Thus Stanton becomes another Moon Sister dupe, and without further ado, our Lottie is installed in Mr. Lincoln's personal carriage. Here are the two of them now, stretching their legs after reviewing the troops.
Well, pretty lady, how do you like reviewing my troops?
I love seeing your troops, Mr. Lincoln, but I'm so sleepy. Can't hardly hold my eyes open. And if you don't mind, dear Abraham, I just go to the carriage and curl up and sleep.
You're sure that the conversation of my generals and me won't disturb your rest? We'll be sitting right outside the carriage. We'll be telling jokes and maybe talking a little battle strategy.
Oh, dear, you dear man, I'll not mind in the least. In fact, I won't even know it, as my ma used to say. Once I'm asleep, the house could burn down and I'd never know it.
Well, I'll go meet my generals now. When I come to you later in our carriage, I'll be sure that you're cozy warm and covered up.
Oh, until later then, sweet prince. But don't you dare steal a kiss from me.
Not a one. At least not just one. Don't be offended, dear Lottie. I'm just kidding. Let me escort you now, dear girl, to our carriage.
While feigning sleep, Lottie hears secrets on topics ranging from strategies for battles to strategies for marriage. Lottie pretends to sleep quite a bit until Lincoln and Lottie arrive in Warm Springs.
Goodbye, darling girl. I'll have my friend Horace Greeley tell Karl Marx to watch out for you in England. Horace and Karl are both members of the Communist International and will help you if I say so. Goodbye, precious Lottie.
Oh, that would be so lovely. But England is my England now, for now and forever. Our time together has been memorable. Dear Abraham, I'll never forget all we shared. You are a spectacular fellow, my dear darling Abraham. But now I must bid you a fine goodbye.
I'll go meet with my generals now. When I come to you later in our carriage, I'll take care of you.
$10,000, 10,000 good American dollars for everyone who apprehends that horrible, horrible witch of a southern named Lottie Moon.
Lottie is, as might be expected, finally captured by men in blue. As for the severity of her sentence, well, here's a clue. Lottie, declared a dangerous rebel spy, serves her time in surprising style. Her jail, a fine hotel. Her sentence time, a little while. Soon she is led through an open door, and gleefully as can be, Lottie is set completely free. And Jenny?
Well, this trip was sure enough bummer. Mama and I failed in our mission. We lost the medicine so urgently needed by our Confederates. I hope God punishes those Yankees for committing crimes against humanity. Sherman saying war is hell doesn't justify those Yankee war crimes, that Holocaust, that cultural genocide. Lincoln and his Republicans are striving for extermination of the South. Yankees have made medicine acquiring and giving treason. So our little Southern babies die. Our black ones, our white ones, die. Our pure, mutilated soldiers experience horrendous pain, die in pain. We're helpless. We can't do anything for our Yankee prisoners' pain. Yankee Unionists must be delighted at this Republican method of torture. What a way to reduce the Southern populace.
Messages 50, morphine-filled bottles 40, opium 7 pounds, all found when Sister Jenny and Mama Moon are Yankee accosted and Yankee arrested. And so, my dear sweet Jenny, you're arrested for illegal transportation of medicine, and we meet again. How's your sister?
Still missing you, dear sir. Still wishing for you. Still dreaming of you. Still alone.
Jenny, because of Lottie, the general says because he almost married her once, he will do all he can for you. He'll set your mom free and choose as your keeper a soldier to be responsible for you. Someone you know.
Carl?
Yes, I go now to arrange everything.
Yankees learned nothing from Jenny, nothing of that extremely important communique to Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Swallowed in written form, it caused me not a speck of harm.
Oddly, when Mama is freed and Jenny's custody is given to a dear soldier friend, not a single Yankee contests.
Quite obviously, it is noted that Jenny's sentence is sugar-coated. Her indulgent treatment and speedy freedom certainly is no secret to the boys in blue.
Acknowledging she has floated her way to freedom after her transfer to General Stephen Hurrah for the trial that never was, all Jenny is heard to say,
I just do what I can do.
and the Union soldiers are heard to say,
Jenny does as Jenny did as Jenny does. That's it.
now before we say goodbye,
To offer a proper conclusion to our tale of Confederates versus Yankees, we would share with you the honest feelings of the members of the Texas Confederate Thespians Society, just how each one of us feels at this moment in time.
our feelings will be conveyed to you in a bit of verse. If it happens that you like what you hear, we urge you to adopt part of it. Use it to start or end your meetings in memory of us. Many years back, Confederate men in the Georgia Heritage Council thought an adoption of part of this poem by organizations of Confederates would be a grand thing. I'm sure some of those guys already through the pearly gates will be smiling now as they look down as we say.
Heavy, heavy is my heart. Tears course down this southern face. Yes, I weep because I know.
Oh, God,
do I know.
Oh, anguish, I know the truth. It strikes me with sharp point. Strikes deep in the heart of me. It tears my soul. It clouds my reason.
Lying enemies accuse my kin of treason.
That enemy of my kin is mine, always and forever, as the cross is my sign. How long must what was remain and is?
How can what was and still is hurt so much?
I hear a long dead whisper, feel a long dead touch, hear a long dead plea. Is this too much? Seek justice, seek it for me.
At last make liars forsake the lie, and with truth testify.
But how can I obtain what truth needs when none with you as power heeds? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Delve in DC, delve in DC. But I must add,
Let Vendisi be aided by me.
Let now be the Confederate hour. Let now be ours the power. Let us force truth from the mouths of government liars. Let's light their consciousness with heavens on fire. Let us make the people of the world aware
that Confederate truths fill the air.
our stars, our real wise man, the founder of the Woodland Sons Group.
Camp 2186.
Oh, Neil,
Thank you so much.
I'm going to get a picture of everyone together. Please come out.
we can tell.
We're going to take a picture with you. You also We'd like to present, we want to thank you for coming all the way from Houston for this wonderful, historically true and accurate challenge For us. And we'd like to present you with a certificate for meritorious service to the Sons of Confederate Veterans, A.H. Belo Camp 49, Dallas, Texas, signed by our commander, our first lieutenant commander, and Mr. A.H. Belo himself. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we're gonna
Closer together.
Yeah, let me hold my-
Lay it down. Lay it down.
Let's give a big hand for the Thespians.